Great. Welcome all. So I am Madhvi Singh, a training director of IMC. I have 14 years of work experience into training and consulting. We do training here in Abu Dhabi and for rest of the world as well. Our upcoming training is on 17th and 18th, which is a refresher course for Black Belt. It is happening in Dubai. I will be talking more about it towards the end of the presentation. So before I start, I want to say if a problem, it is well said, like if a problem is well stated, it is considered to be half solved. With that note, I would like to talk all the components of define phase of DMAC methodology. Uh, Before that, since considering that we do have population who are brand new to the Six Sigma concept, in Six Sigma we try to solve problems as in through projects. So what we do, we take up project continuous improvement projects wherein we can show the benefit to the bottom line, and so there are different types of methodology to tackle this continuous improvement projects. Say for example, DMAIC, which is for pre-existing process, and it is most popular methodology wherein we handle the project which is already for pre-existing process, product, or services. There are other methodologies also, which is for brand new process like DMADV, IDOV, DFSS. However, today we are here to talk about DMAC methodology, define phase of DMAC methodology. So the agenda is to understand the prerequisite and qualification of Six Sigma project. To qualify, even before we start, we have to understand, we have to see whether it is the concept or the project which we are trying to take up, whether we have to move forward with this or whether it can be categorized under Six Sigma project or not. So there are for example, some of the times answers are extremely apparent. We already know, this is the problem, and if we fix this aspect of the process, we'll be able to achieve our target. So, prerequisite and qualification of a Six Sigma project: introduction to define phase, process management for project, process elements, owners and stakeholders, identify customers, collect customer data, analyze customer data, translate customer requirement, Sigma projects. So we will be talking about process management for project and project management basics. So there are several project management tools which is also included in this phase, which is necessary to understand, because Six Sigma is about taking up the improvement project in the organization. And if we are not aware about the project management basics and the tools of project management, it will be difficult. So this is the first phase of DMAC methodology, wherein we will try to understand what are the tools which is used for managing our project, our continuous improvement project. So we have process aspect of it, we have project aspect of it, what are we defining, and the prerequisite and qualification of Six Sigma project. Even before we go ahead with the project needs to qualify for Six Sigma, whether it can be considered as Six Sigma project or not. So what are the prerequisite of Six Sigma projects? Six Sigma can be applied to everything under the sun. The process is almost valid for 70 different sectors. So it is not domain dependent. Not only, it cannot be constrained, or it cannot be contained for one process or one domain. However, it is free from like any department: healthcare, education, financial services, BPOs, any domain can like this methodology can be imbibed and can be worked upon. So what are the qualification criteria for Six Sigma project DMAC level? Is there a process existing? Is there a problem in the process? Is the problem measurable? Does the problem impact customer satisfaction? Does working on the problem impact profit of the company? The root cause of the problem must be unknown. The solution to the problem must not be visible or apparent. Pre-existing, we can apply Six Sigma. Is there a problem in the process? Of course, we have to take up Six Sigma project. Is the problem measurable? Uh, if yes, then we can take up our Six Sigma project. Does the problem impact customer satisfaction? Definitely, we have to take the Six Sigma project. Does working on the problem impact profit of the company? If yes, definitely we have to go ahead and take the project. The root cause of the problem must be unknown. If in case we know the root cause of the problem, we will not consider it as Six Sigma project, because whole essence of Six Sigma project will be lost. If in case we know the root cause already, we can do a project, but that will be defined as a lean project. And there are different set of tools in lean methodology which can be used. Say for example, we do value stream mapping. We understand what are the pain areas, and we mostly do the project which is for saving our time. There in lean concept, there are 8 major waste which we talk there, and if we already know what are the waste, we can work on that and remove it. However, uh, with Six Sigma concept, we will not be able to uh, take up the project for which we already know the solution. Only we this project idea is only qualified when project solution is not known. So we have to solve the problem, and in course of solving our problem, we get to know the solution. So if we fulfill all these criteria which we just discussed, we are qualified to take up the project. The define phase is the first phase in the Six Sigma project. The objective of this phase are to clearly identify the problem statement through customer analysis, define the objective of the Six Sigma project, plan the project in terms of time, budget, and resource requirements. Define team structure for the project and establish roles and responsibilities. In this session, we will cover the first two aspects of the define phase. First two aspects is first is process aspect of the project and how to capture customer requirement. Project management aspect of the project, how to handle the project. The Six Sigma project idea which we have taken up for the project, how to handle that project. So all the project management aspect which what are the project tools which we have to use, and so on. Team structure and roles and responsibilities will be addressed in the session along with tools that can be used for planning and controlling the project. So in this section, we'll discuss about business process elements, owners and stakeholders, identify customers, collect customer data, analyze customer data, translate customer requirement. So now I would like to ask my attendees, like, what do we understand by business process? Any idea, like, just a 1 minute break and you guys can answer this question so that I can carry forward my answer from there. So what is a business process? Business process is a part of business system. So business process is a systematic organization of objects, people, machinery, material, and so on into work activities which is designed to produce a required product or service. Say, for example, sales, marketing, purchasing, finance, HR are various business processes or of a manufacturing company. So these are the sub processes, right? Sub processes of business. With business processes versus process is a subset of business process. Output of a process is aligned to business process, and output of a business process is aligned to business system. So there is a business, and there will be several business processes. Under that, there will be different processes. Payroll calculation is a process. For example, payroll calculation is a process of HR. Elements of any process: supplier, input, process, output, and customer, SIPOC. So this is a very high level process map, SIPOCs. Its expansion is supplier, input, process, output, customer. This we study in define phase of the DMAC process, and it's a very as I just said, it is a very high level explanation of, or view of our process. Who are the to understand the overall process, who are the suppliers, what are the input, what are the processes which we are involved in, what are the outputs, and who all are customers, to understand the interrelationship between all, and also to take up a project, like what are the processes, what are the modifications which can be done in the process to achieve our target, and so on. So process elements are: supplier can be a person, another organization, a part of a business system. Input: resources, information, material, service, and so on, provided by the supplier. What is process? Set of steps that transform the input into output. Process adds value as perceived by the customer to the input. Output: final product, service as a result of the process. So that is the output. Whatever is the input is processed and becomes output. Customers, user of the output. Customers can also be internal customer and external customer. There are different categories of customer as well. And before processing or understanding, we have to understand our customers as well. User of the output: a person, a part of business system, another organization. Any change in output will be because of one or more changes in supplier, input, or process. If supplier input processes are stable, output will be stable too. Relationship between supplier input processes and output provide a method to define possible cause and effect relationship. So if we have any problem in the process, we can understand the cause of it, and if we understand the cause of it, we can analyze it, we can solve it and come up with a solution or rectify the issues which we are facing with our processes. So primarily, SIPOC is used to scope the project. So this is the template for SIPOC. I would request each one of you to just make a note of it and just try to pen down some of the processes in your organization or wherever you have worked before, in case you're not working right now. The SIPOC map is a macro level map drawn only in define phase, as we already discussed. The SIPOC map, when used in service environment like a call center, is called a COPIS map, wherein we keep our customers before everything. So in most service processes, the demand often comes from customer, and hence the customer step is updated first. Supplier quality assumes extra significance. The SIPOC map shows if the supplier's goods are checked on arrival. To ensure all the input of the processes are of good quality, the supplier quality must be good, or the business spends a lot of money to inspect, audit the input, which is actually a waste. Like we will also talk about different types of uh, uh, auditing which happens and how it is categorized. So audit or check. So for example, if a object is rightly made first time. So we will be, actually saving in all the kinds of audit which we are doing again and again, the quality checks we are doing again and again. So, who are owners and stakeholders? Just to understand the participants of project, we are discussing this. So, if whenever we start a project, we should understand who are the owners, who are the stakeholders, who will be involved in doing this project. The one who will, approve for this project, to the person who is the uh, who is involved completely in this project. So, to understand who are the owners and stakeholders, it is very important, and definitely at most important to understand in define phase and not later on. A process owner is a senior executive in charge of a process, somebody like, engagement director, or who's owner of that department as in that process. Like if there is a financial services process and there's some project happening there, the owner who is taking care of the entire engagement, the entire process, is the process owner. A business may have many stakeholders. Failure of a process to meet its objective may result in negative effect on the stakeholders, stockholders. The net worth of the business may get reduced. Customers may seek competitors, may find resource in legal actions. Suppliers, payment may get delayed or not paid at all. Company management, wage level may decrease. Employees and their families, reductions in a number of employees. The community and society may pollute environment. The stakeholders analysis is an important objective for defined phase to be completed before thinking of how to do a Six Sigma project. The team must also factor in reasons why stakeholders may oppose the change effort. So, who are our customers? It is very important to understand the customer before taking up the project, because we can analyze whom are we impacting. And so let's see what are the types of customers. A customer is someone who uses a product service, or decides to buy a product or service, pay for the product and service, get affected by product and service. Types of customers, of course, internal customer and external customer. Let's understand what is internal customer and what is external customer. Internal customer is anyone in a business system who is affected by product or service as it is being made. The next process function in a business process is an internal customer. What an internal customer may need from the process. Example, proper training equipment, information, reports, timely actions to meet deadlines and materials. Why is an internal customer important? Activities directly affect ultimate customers. Activities affect the next internal customer, affect quality of the product services. Addressing satisfaction of internal customer is a way to greater productivity and quality. So if our internal customer is happy, they will make the external customer happy too. Now, let's see who are the external customers. External customers are not part of Six Sigma team organization, but are affected by the organization. Important because they are the source of revenue to any business system. And the major idea of doing any Six Sigma project is to make our customers happy so that they can pay, and the bottom line is affected. External customer includes three types of customer: end user, intermediate customer, and affected parties. Purchase a product. End users are those who purchase a product service for their own use. Intermediate customer are those who purchase the product service and then resell, package, modify, assemble the product for sale to an end user. Example, retailer, distributor, logistic firms, etc. Affected parties do not use or purchase the product but are affected by it. Example, people living near a manufacturing plant or defense artillery, etc. So how do we collect customer data? After identifying various customers, get feedback from the customer, both internal and external, so that process can be improved to what customer wants. Collecting customer data also helps in such questions as what is quality as perceived by customer, knowledge about competitors, identify factors to provide a competitive edge to the product service. Customer requirements are defined by customer and not by anyone else. If the customer is not specific about his requirement, the business must ask it. Say, for example, we are selling shirt, and the person says the shirt is not good. So we cannot sit with an idea that the shirt which we are selling is not good. We have to further ask the question to understand the real pain area of our customer. Say, for example, they're saying shirt is not good. Why is the shirt not good? Is the fitting not good? Or like, what are the different critical to quality? What are the different things which is making our customer unhappy? So we have to design our questions in such a way to understand the feedback from our customer, that what exactly is troubling them, what exactly they're unhappy about. So the ways to capture customer feedback is through survey, questionnaire designed to gather data. A small group of individuals who are assembled to explore specific topics and questions about customers. Interviews, individual customers interviews of 30 minutes. Customer complaints, call center, emails, feedbacks, etc. So through that we can get the feedback of our customer. So let's discuss what are the advantages and disadvantages of uh, these ways which we just discussed about for collecting customers' data. Uh, Just now we discussed about surveys, focus group, individual interviews, and customer complaints. So in survey, what are the advantages? The cost is low. Phone response rate is 70 to 90%. Mail survey required least amount of trainee resources for execution, can produce faster results. What are the disadvantages? Mail survey can get incomplete results, skipped questions, unclear understanding. Mail surveys 20 to 30% response rate. Phone survey interview has influential role, can lead interviewee producing undesirable results. Talking about focus group, group interaction generates information, more in-depth response, excellent for getting critical to quality definitions. We will be discussing about critical to quality. Like we just discussed, if a person is complaining about the quality of a product or service, we should not sit there. We should know more about it. That what are the pain areas, what exactly is troubling our customer, to understand more on that, to get that kind of customer data. We have ways to collect it, and from there on we translate it to critical to quality. We know through these ways we know what is the pain areas, what is troubling our customers, and how exactly we can translate these pain areas. So for our process, that will become a critical, that will become a metric to solve our problem, or to, that will become like a target to achieve for that particular process, product or something. So how do we analyze customer requirement? And, here I would like to talk about a tool called Pareto analysis. It is phase phase independent tool. It can be used in any phase of the DMAC methodology and elsewhere also. Primarily it is used to prioritize our problems. Say, for example, we have We have different types of issues going on. However, which issue to target first? Which issue we should handle first, so that it will give better results. Better results in terms of like um, if we solve that problem, the rest of the problem will not have so much of impact. So we have to hit the vital few issues and leave the trivial many, because that will actually not solve the problem. So let's talk about what Pareto analysis is. So Pareto chart is a histogram ordered by frequency of occurrences. So analyze customer requirement. How to analyze it? Who is the customer? What customer said? Voice of the to understand voice of the customer. What is the need? When is the need felt? What is where is the need felt? Why is the need felt? How is the situation handled? So all these questions we ask, so that to understand the real pain area of our customers. We were discussing about Pareto analysis, wherein it is like a histogram uh, ordered by frequency of occurrences, also called 80-20 rule or vital few and trivial many. It helps project teams focus on problems that are causing the greatest number of defects. Uh, so that's how it looks like. So a hotel receives a plenty of complaints, and so the complaints are categorized as under cleaning 35 complaints, check-in 19, opening hours of the pool 4, minibar 3, room services 2, and others 1. Interpretation: 35 customers have complained about the cleaning being inadequate, and so on. So, So these are the buckets, and say for example, if we solve this cleaning and check-ins, we will be able to reach the solve 80% of our issues. 80% of the complaint from, yeah. So how do we translate customers' requirement? Customer requirement is the data collected from customers that gives information about what they need or want from the process. Customer requirements are often high level, vague, and non specific. Some customers may give you a set of specific requirement to the business, but broadly, customers' requirement are a reflection of their experience. Customer requirements, when translated into critical process requirements that are specific and measurable, are called critical to quality factors. A fully developed critical to quality has four elements: output characteristic, Y metric, target, and specification or tolerance limit. What is Y metric? Y is equals to f of x. So Y is an output. A Yeah, we already talked about it. So this is. I would request all the attendees to send your questions once we are done with the sessions. Uh, in after half an hour, like the last half an hour will be for a question and answer section, and I would request all of you to come up, or give your suggestions, or you have any doubt, or so that we can talk about it at the end of the session. Otherwise we will not be able to complete this section, so the essence will be lost. Yeah, however, all the no question is irrelevant. I would request each one of you to hold your questions, and we will be answering it shortly. Define critical to quality. So, voice of customer forms a critical input to define the critical to quality for the customer. Listen to the voice of the customer, business, and process. Use critical to quality translation worksheet. So, there is a template to fill in to understand what is critical to quality, so that we can work upon it and improve our process, product, or services. Translating a customer need into fully developed critical to quality occurs in the define and measure phase of the DMAC methodology, which we are discussing right now. Typically, a Six Sigma project starts with understanding what a customer wants. Now, this understanding can come only if you have listened to the customer, which can be done only by VOC method, voice of customer. So one more very interesting tool which we use in this field is QFD, Quality Function Deployment, also known as Voice of Customer or House of Quality, a process to understand the needs of the customer and convert them into a set of design and manufacturing requirements. It is a systematic process that facilitates a business focus on its customers. QFD helps companies design more competitive product in less time and with less cost. What do we learn from QFT? Which customer requirement are most important? What are our strengths and weaknesses? What do we focus where do we focus our efforts on? Where do we need to do the most work? How do we learn from QFT? By asking relevant question to the customer, tabulating them to bring out a set of parameters critical to design of the product. So there is a template. Why it is called house of quality? Because the structure looks like a house, therefore it is acronymed as that. And it basically talks about the relationship between different aspects of solving the problem or issues faced by a customer to the final quality of the product or services. So these are the component of QFT. So it, as I told you, like this is acronym, like it looks like a house, therefore it is called House of Quality. QFD, Quality Function Deployment, is also termed as House of Quality because it looks like a house. So what are the segments? The left vertical section is known as customer room. The horizontal matrix are known as technical room. I'll be showing you the template. The matrix between the customer room and technical room, where priority numbers would be updated, is known as integrator room. The integrator room is expressed in the form of relationship matrix. The rightmost column in competitor room, there is where benchmarking happens, and the row of the bottom is known as tester room. This is where benchmarking and target setting happens. So, and now learning about project management basics. What are the project management tools which we learn here? So here we understand project charter. And in this segment, we will be talking about project charter and problem statement, project scope, project matrix, project planning tool, project documentation, project risk analysis, and project closure. So when we talk about a project, like what are how do we present it to the upper management for the approval? We have a project idea, we state it in a way where it's a one pager, and it is also a live document. So it is not that if you go with, you know, some project title and the rest of the component of a project charter, it cannot be altered later on. More in most of the cases, it is altered as we proceed to the project, towards the project. So however, this is the one page here wherein it is a proposal to the upper management showing that this is the project which we are interested in doing, this is the problem which we are facing right now, and if we solve this problem, we will be achieving our target. How we are impacting our bottom line is what we are stating here, or making the upper management understand why is the project relevant to take up. So in this segment, we will be discussing about the project charter. Project charter has different segment. Here we quantify our problem. What is the percentage? What is the improvement which we are aspiring for? Project scope, project matrix, project planning tools, project documentation, project risk analysis, and project closure. Let's get started. So understanding problem statement. This is the first component of our project charter. First step towards stating the project is to define the problem statement that the project is targeted to solve. Problem statement should be clear and concise description of the problem, quantified with a matrix that includes unit, this percentage, this much. This is the like uh, identifies gap in performance, states current state, baseline. This is the area, like the defect percentage is 25 now, and we have to reduce it by, you know, 80%, 90%, and so on. Benchmarking to be done only if needed. Gap in performance should always be measured against what the customer needs. So, whatever the customer is demanding, we can keep it as a standard or our goal, and then we have to target. This is our current state, which where we baseline our process, and this is what we are targeting at. So it has to be in a very quantified way, not a vague statement. We have to improve. No, how much we have to improve is what we discuss here. What is the pain area, why we want to improve it, and by how much we want to improve it. And of course, the solution will definitely not be known. However, we will quantify our problem. Like, this is the customer demand, and this is the level where we are right now, and by how much percentage we want to improve. So, project charter. A charter is a, as I told you, like, this is the first phase. Project charter, we have to propose it to our upper management for the approval. Or for getting the go ahead from the upper management. Project charter is a written document that defines the team mission, scope of operation, objectives, timeframes, and consequences for the project. A charter is considered as a formal approval from the senior management to start the project. Who writes the charter? The green belt is trained enough to write the charter with a problem statement. Checked by black belt, it is a black belt's responsibility to get approval from the champion. A charter should include measurable objectives, CTQs, to be achieved from the project, which will help resolve the problem statement defined earlier. Organizational and operational boundaries within which the uh, project should perform. Top management support and commitment is of utmost importance, because it is also a top-down approach. If the upper management doesn't give the approval, we will not be able to carry forward. And also, there's a lot of support which is required. This time investment, and resource investment for this group, for the Six Sigma group who works on the project. And if we do not get an approval or from top management, it is almost impossible to go ahead with these kind of projects. Project objective criteria. Project objective will be similar to the problem statement with regard to specificity and measurability. It should meet the following criteria. So it should be SMART. SMART as in specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and stretch. So specific, what you are working on. Good example, reduce patient ID error in recording lab results. Bad example, reduce form rejections. So which form rejections? It is not clear. It has to be very, very specific when we are writing it. Measurable, how would you know you have succeeded? Good example, reduce patient ID error by 30%. Bad example, fewer form rejections. So whatever, so even if there's improvement by only one form, so less this time, it can be considered as improved process or project, but uh, actually speaking, it is not. So it has to be quantified, as we discussed in our previous slides. So it has to be quantified. Attainable, actionable, that the target is doable, there is some probability of success. Relevant, important to helping achieve yearly or strategic goals. Time based, time frame, when you will lock for success. Good example, reduced patient ID error 30% by 30%. And so on. So like exact date, like approximately it, as I told you, this project charter is a living document. There can be change, and 100% of the times there are chances when whatever date we are targeting at, it expands, like it increases by the time which we actually think, increases or sometimes decreases as well. However, as I told you, it's a living document. We first speculate, we think that we will be able to achieve it by so and so date. It might increase by few days, or we might complete it. However, Ideal Lean Six Sigma project lasts from 3 to 4 months is where it gets completed. So the project charter has different sections, like it has project name and description, project manager name, business need, problem statement, project purpose or justification includes ROI, return on investment, stakeholders, who all are stakeholders requirements, broad timelines, major deliverables, constraint and assumptions, summary budget. Project plan. A project plan is a final approved document used to manage and control project execution. The project managers uses the project charter as input to create a detailed project plan. The project plan includes the following section: project management approach, scope statement, work breakdown structure, cost estimates, schedule, performance baseline, major milestones, key of required staff, key risks, open or pending decision. The project plan also contains reference to other subsidiary plans for managing risk, scope, schedule, etc. Project scope: develop and review project boundaries to ensure that the project has value to the customer. Scope refers to all the work involved in creating the products of the project and the processes used to create them. Project scope management includes the processes involved in defining and controlling what is or is not included in a project. Scope planning, deciding how the scope will be defined, verified, and controlled. Scope definition, reviewing the project charter and preliminary scope statement and adding more information as requirements are developed and change requests are approved. Creating the WBS, work breakdown structure, subdividing the major project deliverables into smaller, more manageable components. So we have template for all these things to go ahead with it. When we say work breakdown structure, there's a template how to break the work and how to go ahead with it. So if we target the entire problem in one go, it becomes a Herculean task to solve it. However, if we fragment it, we make it into small pieces, a small project, and solve it, it becomes much more easier to reach the target. Scope verification, formalizing acceptance of the project scope. Scope control, controlling changes to the project scope. Techniques for identifying project scope. Pareto chart, which Pareto analysis, the 80-20 rule, which we talked about. So project primary matrix. Matrix are needed to ensure that the requirement for the projects are measurable and are therefore controlled throughout the project. Primary matrix are developed in defined phase of the project, but these are not finalized until the measure phase. The primary metric for consideration in the project come from various sources. Say, for example, some supplier, internal process, and customer. The primary metric for the project can be quality, cycle time, cost, value, labor. Therefore, any project which we pick, we can do around improving the quality, reducing the cycle time. How are we getting more ROI, return on investment, value, labor, etc. So secondary project matrix. The secondary matrix for the project are derived from the primary matrix. They are usually numerical representation of the primary matrix. So some examples of secondary matrix include defect per unit, DPU, defect per million opportunity, DPMO. As you guys must be aware of, Six Sigma means 3.4 defects per million opportunity. Average age of receivables, lines or error-free software code, reduction in a scrap. Project planning tool. There are various tools used by a project manager to plan and control a project. We have studied one such tool called Pareto chart in the previous section where we discussed 80-20 rule. Uh, in this section, we will be studying about network diagram, critical path method, CPM, program evaluation and review technique, PERT, often called PERT chart, Gantt chart, work breakdown structure. So in Gantt chart, we categorize our activities with that, and there is a time stated adjacent to it. So it shows the progress of the activity, and if we are delayed, how much we are delayed, and So it is actually a pictorial representation, which becomes very easy to understand where we are and what are the activities we need to pick up. So a network diagram is an arrow diagram that represents interdependence between all the tasks and activities. So early start, duration, early finish, late start, late finish, and the task, slack or float time. So network diagram, before an activity begins, all preceding activities must be completed. Arrows indicate logical precedence. Network must start at a single event and end at a single event. What is slack time or float time? For an event is the latest date an event can occur, can be finished without extending the project time. This is the Gantt chart, which has the sub activities and the timeline. So project planning tool, work breakdown structure, delivery oriented hierarchical decomposition of work to be executed by the project team to accomplish project objectives, define tool scope for the project and creates required deliverables, develop common understanding on the project scope. Items at the lowest level of the WBS are called work packages. Work packages can be scheduled, cost estimated, monitored, and controlled. WBS divides the project deliverables and project work into smaller, more manageable components. Project documentation for the project, the last component of we can call it a last component of project management. So what we do, we document our project. So for example, if there are similar issues in future, it can be referred, and the project can be repeated or replicated at different location, or if in case it is done there also. Documentation for the project is critical throughout the phase of the project. Some of the benefit achieved through project documentations are: first, written proof for execution of the project, the common understanding of the requirement of the project and the status of the project; personal bias reduction, as there is a documented history of discussion and decision made for the project. So each project includes a variety of documents like project charter, project plan and subsidiary plans, project status reports, including reporting on key milestones, risk, and pending action items. The frequency of these reports is determined by the nature of the project. These reports are sent to all stakeholders to keep them abreast of the status of the project. Final project report. This report is prepared at the end of the project and includes a summary of the complete project, often called storyboard. So once the project is finished, this is done uh, to have a documented form of documentation done, so that it can be referred for future use. We can have a proof that this project was done and the kind of improvement which we brought in. So it is actually a written document, written proof for completion of that project and the achievement. And also it is very useful for using it or replicating it at other geographical locations. Say for example, an organization is located in different geography of the globe, and the similar issues there, the processes are similar in different locations. So if a person has done the project is done in one location, and there's similar processes or activities happening at different locations, so it can be replicated easily. So vehicles for project documentation: project storyboard, statistical tool output, spreadsheet output, checklist, and miscellaneous. This is a template provided by an organization to formally document the progress of a Six Sigma project and used in review meeting with master black belts and champions to review progress. Statistical tool output: there are generally outputs from statistical tools like SPSS or Minitab. Minitab is talks humongous about itself because it is used almost everywhere. Statistical analysis is used. So it is a very good software, statistical software, to know the exact interpretation of whatever test we are doing. So I would recommend each one of you to to download it. There's a 1 month free trial. Download and get yourself aware about the software, what are the aspects which it is using and how it is used. Spreadsheet output, they're generally statistical calculation or graph as used in Microsoft Excel or OpenOffice. These are generally used at the end of each Six Sigma phase to ensure the required step, tools, techniques are followed in Six Sigma project. Additional documentation of data research reports, etc., can be included as a part of any project. So that's how we finish the project. Project risk management. Project risk management is an ongoing activity. What is risk? Uncertain event or consequences probable of occurring during a project has impact on at least one project objective like time, cost, quality, scope, etc. Impact can be positive or negative, enhances the success of the project, threats the project success. Risk probability is the likelihood that a risk will occur. Probability and impact are assessed for each risk. Risk consequences are the effect on project objective if the risk event occurs. Importance of risk analysis. Risk analysis and management is crucial to the success of project as it helps in identifying risk proactively before they become issues. Once the risk has been identified, it can be mitigated, transferred, or accepted. Communicating to stakeholders beforehand and setting realistic expectations, identifying contingency activities if the risk does become an issue. How do we close the project? Project closure is the process of finalizing all the activities across all project management phases to formally complete the project. The intent of this phase is to get a formal sign off on the project so that the project can be considered closed and resources can be released. Why resources can be released? So, for example, a green belt at green belt level who are involved in doing a Six Sigma project, they are not a full time Six Sigma employees. They can be picked from certain processes involved in that Six Sigma project and devote their few hours, working hours to this project team. And once the project is complete, which is most likely 3 to 4 months, they get back to their normal work. So that's how it is. If you talk about a black belt, they full time they devote their time to the continuous improvement projects, and they have their own role defined, which is a Six Sigma role, like consulting role. But at till green belt level, so there are different levels at Six Sigma: white belt, yellow belt, green belt, black belt, and master black belt. Till green belt, they contribute. However, from black belt, they are the full-time Six Sigma employees who devote their 100% of the time in doing Six Sigma projects. With Six Sigma project, what we understand? Process improvement projects or continuous improvement projects. Capture insight from the projects so that these can be implemented for future projects. Update organization assets, process documentation, case studies to include reference to the projects. Project closure also include document archiving. All project documents are backed up and secured to ensure security and retrieval. So now I will request my participants, attendees of this webinar, to come up with their question answers. Questions. If you have some questions, please ask your questions now. There are much more in this phase, define phase. Here we were just talking about the glimpses of this phase. So the question is Six Sigma project, how to implement in our daily working. So it is actually a concept you can of continuous improvement. However, if you want to take it as a project, continuous improvement project, uh, for, as I discussed, you have to take approval from the process owner, because it is very important to get the support from upper management so that you can proceed to it. So that's how, like, if you take it as a concept, you can do improvement or find the better way in doing anything you work, but if you talk about, uh, taking it in your work, it has to be approved from the upper management. So what is the next question is, what is the ideal sample size for collecting data? This is a very interesting topic and it is very vast. I will not, this is not in, I will not be able to talk about it here. This is majorly done in major phase for you to understand. And also the whole study revolves around it, like how to study your data, what kind of sample, like there is, there, like their population and their samples. So because the population is huge and it cannot be, studied, there are different ways of collecting the data. So there are different ways, and that's how we categorize, we select our sample to study on to get the right kind of interpretations. Absolutely not. This question, there's one question from Abdul Wasim, and he's saying, yes, is this demo class enough to proceed for Six Sigma exam? Of course not. This is just the glimpse of define phase which we talked about. There are a lot more to discuss in it. Since it was just for 1.5 hours, it is a general discussion on that. Definitely, we'll have to invest much more time in reading the book, and also what kind of exam you are taking. So this is not enough. It is just a general discussion, and there are a lot of scope to study more and invest more time in it. Is okay. How long does it take to complete the Six Sigma course? So so there are different kind of classes designed for Six Sigma course. Um, some people who are actually well acquainted, are already working in this field, are in quality department, and they are aware of all the tools because they are already using it. For them, I would say, a month's time is enough. Classroom training which we are providing, it varies for different kind of population. Somebody who just want a refresher course, it is just for 2 days. Like we are having one on 17th and 18th of this month. It is just a refresher course, and it is primarily for those who have already undergone uh, all the undergone to all the material which we provide. However, idle time, it depends upon individual, like how much time you want to you have invested in. Generally, it takes 6 months, for few 3 months, and if somebody is very dedicated, 1 or 2 months is good enough time. However, it is not very easy, it is difficult, and I will recommend each one of you to invest a lot of time into this and do the project to understand the actual flavor of this topic. So somebody has asked, what standard deviation make impact on the process? How long does it take to complete? Okay. So the next question is, what standard deviation make impact on the process? So if you talk about Six Sigma, it is about reducing the variation. Um, so if you talk about the graph, the linear it is, or the narrower the graph is, the normal curve which you have usually seen, the narrower it is, if the lesser the standard deviation, the better is the process. So we when we do a Six Sigma project, we are actually working upon reducing the variation. So variation is definitely not good for our process. How much process involved in Six Sigma technique? It is about a process, like how to improve a process. What what is the best thing that Lean Six Sigma certification can offer to us professionals? Best thing is you can, like, if you do a Six Sigma project, you can impact the bottom line. With that, I mean that you can show the benefits to the organization. You can bring in lot of financial benefit to the organization, and that's how and there are targets, like if you are in Six Sigma team, and even if you are not, you can still take up that project, but as I told you, there has to be a proper approval from senior management, because otherwise it will not be considered. So it brings in improvement to the organization, and that's what attracts upper management the most. The kind of cost benefit which you bring in by doing this project is the key of it, is the area of attraction for doing this. How much percentage Six Sigma is applicable in actual project? How much percentage Six Sigma is applicable in actual projects? I didn't get your questions. However, uh, Six Sigma is, there are a lot of tools which we use in different phases. We just talked about the glimpse of define phase, which is the first phase of DMAC methodology. There yeah, there are different set of tools which we use, and yes, like it is a well packaged methodology which we use, and yeah, so it is used, definitely it is. Application of this process improvement require understanding of the actual process defects. Please explain in manufacturing of goods how it is applied. As I told you, Six Sigma is domain independent. It can be applied to any domain, whether it is manufacturing, services, healthcare, anything it can be applied. It's a methodology to tackle your issues, to improve your process, to reduce the defect. There's entire methodology which is followed, starting from define to measure. First we define our problem. Once we have the understanding about our problem, we measure it, we quantify it, what is the area, what how much we should improve it on. After measurement, we analyze it, like why it is happening, if it is happening, why it is happening, understanding that. Then we, now we have an understanding about our problem, we know the root cause analysis. We fix it, we improve it, and after we improve it, we put our control system in place to maintain the output of it. Can we appear to black belt directly without writing green belt? You can. Also depends upon the kind of experience which you have. Uh, my recommendation will be to go, first take your green belt, study a little bit, like understand what it is, your yellow belt, white belt, yellow belt, if possible. At least go through green belt and then take up black belt. However, it also depends upon the kind of knowledge which you have already. So if you feel confident that you are well versed with it, you can. There is no restrictions. Certifications will be accredited from ASQ or IAAC, or we need to apply for ASQ as well. Talking about IMC, the certificate which you will get is from IMC. If in case you want ASQ, you will have to appear for it directly from ASQ. We can assist you in all the ways to help you handle it. Yeah. What is the requirement to do green belt? Do we need to complete the white and yellow belt course before doing this course? Of course not. You don't need to do that. You can do the green belt directly. There is no need for doing that. However, if you read a few journals, something about Six Sigma, it will make your life easier. What is SPSS means? I didn't get your question. Can you elaborate a little more? How to become a certified Six Sigma expert? What training should I attend? So if you do a black belt training, and if you achieve a black belt certification, you can call yourself a Six Sigma expert. And of course, project is required to, Six Sigma projects are required to be done. Is there a software or template for this process? Is there a software or template for this process? Which process? Please elaborate. Six Sigma technology is only used in for improvement. So Six Sigma is a methodology. Yes, we do use it for improvement project, continuous improvement project, which is bringing, like financial benefit to the organization, to the process, to the service. Yeah, so basically it brings in financial benefit to the organization. Can we use in construction sector? Of course, as I said, it is a domain independent, and we can definitely use it in construction sector. How much the cost of certification and how much time required? Can we do it online? Yes. How much is the cost? You can get in touch with the Spock, which you have spoken before, or you can take the number from our website and you can talk about it. How much time is required is again, it depends upon you. We ideally give 3 months of time to prepare and to go through the courses. However, it is your individual choice, and that how much time you take and how much time you feel confident in yourself to take up the exam. I will recommend to spend your 3 months dedicatedly for this, and then go ahead with the exam. If I have limited time to do these courses, which course I should opt for? If in case you have limited time for doing this course, I would again request you to assess your yourself, so that you can take up. If you take green belt, you will have sufficient knowledge about it, and so you have to assess yourself like what level you are. If in case you are not aware about any of the concept, I would request you to go take up first green belt and then black. What are the advantages to get certification as far as a job is concerned? If you are in UAE, what what title I will get? So generally, the title which people holding this certificate are process engineers, senior process engineers, delivery excellence managers, operational excellence managers. So these are the titles which we get after completing these certifications. MAM PMP project management course give idea about PMP project management course, give idea about, please. I would have loved to give it about PMP projects, but this is like this presentation was about Six Sigma. Therefore, I would request you to get back to me through your Spox, and I would love to talk about it. So no, there won't be any subjective questions. There will be only objective questions. So I would, since there is no negative marking, I would request each one of you to attempt all your questions. 80% is the passing marks. Yeah, multiple choice questions. They are all MCQs, multiple choice questions. There will be sample papers shared with you, which you can practice. So thank you all for taking up time to attend this session.